Hi guys and welcome back. We've got a very different episode for you this fortnight, recorded live from Pumphouse Sydney for the World 8 Mario Kart Grand Prix to launch Bounty Hunter Brewing's World 8 Raspberry and Peach Sour. While a huge range of brewing industry personalities mix with enjoyers of fine alcoholic beverages and attempt to dominate the Mario Kart tracks on various Nintendo devices of old, we managed to kidnap a range of punters to catch up on all things beer and pop culture. Once you've finished listening to this eclectic episode, rife with background noise and Chris thoroughly enjoying standing on furniture and literally shouting at people to start playing video games, check out our website at bhbanter.com, our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now YouTube, throw us a review on iTunes, or abuse us directly via email at feedback@bhbanter.com. It's worth noting that while we didn't directly review any beers this episode, our wives can confirm that more alcohol was consumed in the making of this episode than any before it. Oh, and they can also confirm that no nether regions were harmed in the making of the glorious flesh-coloured sour we're enjoying on the night. Promise. Welcome back to Bounty Hunter Banter for your regular dose of beer and pop culture. Again, joining me, I have Dan.
Hey.
And Chris.
What up?
And I'm Pete. And it's going to be a really odd episode tonight. We're sitting recording live from the Pumphouse in Sydney for our World 8 launch.
Mario Kart tournament.
It is the Pumphouse World 8 Grand Prix.
There you go. The official title. So tonight we're going to be kind of mixing in with a bunch of people from the industry.
How the fuck this is going to work, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so
It'll work. As soon as some of these guys start having a couple of beers, man, it's just going to be a fucking
mess.
The whole paragraph that they say is going to be the scratch out.
Yeah.
Pete's going to have a lot of editing to do.
Yeah.
That's right. So I'm pretty much going to be manning the booth tonight, and we'll have random people drop in and drop out of the podcast. So it's going to be a bit of an eclectic mix of industry pundits.
And I've got to say, I hooked that Wii up with Mario Kart about an hour ago, and I don't think it's sat for more than 30 seconds without more people jumping on and playing it, so it's good.
So just to set the scene, we've pretty much taken over the mezzanine level of the Pumphouse. We've got a bunch of people here from the industry and a bunch of drinking folk.
Well, there's also dudes that I talk to on some of the pop culture Facebook groups that I'm a part of. We've got a couple other podcasts rocking up. We've even got other breweries that we didn't sort of speak to until they've just sort of rocked up. New England's rocked up, Ferrell's rocked up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw Ferrell Brewing earlier.
Yeah. New England's a long way away.
Yeah, man. Well, they just take over because Keg and Brew...
4 or 5 hours up the coast.
I know. Keg and Brew have just pulled out because his mate's stuck in traffic. I think. So New England rocked up 5 minutes before and go, dude, have you got a spare spot? I'm like, well, we do now.
Oh, they're under Keg and Brew, are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So while these guys are off organising the Mario Kart race, or tournament rather, I'm going to try and just nab randoms to come and join me and have a chat.
So
yeah, that'll be cool.
Big thanks to Phil and the Pumphouse for letting us to take over the top level to run this tournament.
Thanks,
brave.
Phil, who's currently playing Mega Man.
Yeah, he is. Both of the Pumphouse managers at the moment are sitting in front of the TV playing Mega Man
with what looks like Ferrell Brewing.
Yeah. So Steph and Phil.
Okay.
Awesome.
We'll be back.
This is probably the last time I'll get you two guys sitting down at the same time.
I'll pop in
until the end. Wait, let's see how chaotic the actual tournament is, because that's a hell of a tree Phil's drawn on that blackboard.
Yeah, it's going to be
How many teams have we got? 27?
27, 28.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but there's not going to be a shortage of people to sit down.
Yeah. No,
definitely not.
Your job tonight, Pete, is to try and rope my wife into sitting down and talking on.
Okay.
Because she's
wives of banter.
She's so dead against it, but I said she's going to have to sit in one day, and now's good a time as now.
Each time you guys will hear me, I'll probably be substantially drunker and drunker each
just
time.
Just going to be more and more slurring as we get down the road.
I'm sure I'll spend most of the night filtering you out of background noise anyway.
Absolutely, and it's going to be an absolute to do so.
Thanks.
No war rigs till the end of the night.
No, I'm not having war rigs at all, bro. All right, see you guys.
Thanks, guys. All right, so our first guest for the evening is going to be Al, who, I don't know if you remember, joined us in episode 9 or 10, somewhere around there.
Back in the day.
It's been a while. I actually haven't seen you since then either.
No, there's been a few. I mean, there was the launch. We were just talking about the 1989 launch for the What Have You Done, Ray?
Yeah, that's right. What did you do, Ray? So that was at 1989. Unfortunately, I was in Vegas at the time, so I missed out on that, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. But tonight, this is like going from strength to strength. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's a good turnout so far, actually. It's pretty early. It's only, 6:30, so we've got another half an hour before people need to turn up to fucking race.
Well, that's good. So with all the different teams up there, have you guys already spoken about who you got tonight, or?
No, actually. We haven't really looked at the leaderboard yet. Actually, I'm just looking at it now. So I've skipped straight ahead. So Bounty Hunter Banter has skipped to round 2. I've got a bye in the first round.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I'll be racing the winner between Young Henrys and Hammered Bros. Hopefully it's the Hammered Bros, because I haven't played Mario Kart ever.
Ever? Even on the SNES back in the day?
Well, look, I've played a Mario Kart game, but looking at the screen at the moment, I've never played this version.
Yeah, and the subtleties, I mean, the holding the controller.
Yeah.
Are these Wii U's or what's the one before it?
I think it's a Wii U. I don't know. I don't know Nintendo because I don't swing that way, you know? You were saying before, it's kind of like a Holden and Ford thing.
It is.
So I've very much always been a PlayStation boy, so...
Yeah.
I think I've never owned a Nintendo system. I've played an N64, I played GoldenEye 007, and that was the only game I ever played.
Yes, GoldenEye.
So how you been, man? It's been quite a few episodes.
It's been a few episodes. That's a good measure of time there, isn't it?
Every fortnight like fucking clockwork.
It is. Yeah, I'm waiting for have they uploaded it yet? Come on. I've got to get the drive home.
That's it.
I don't want to listen to FM radio. Come on.
Fuck that. It's too fucking depressing.
No, good. I've been chipping away at games.
Yep.
Witcher, this is probably more Dan's sort of thing.
Yeah.
But Witcher's sort of all-consuming. I've also been playing a lot of indie games.
Yep.
There's a lot of smaller style games on Steam with the Steam sales. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I guess it's a time management thing.
Yeah, you know what? I would play a lot more Steam-based games, but my PC's in the back room where I do my work when I work from home, and I cannot bring myself to play video games on my work PC.
That's very strong
of you. It
you.
just makes me feel dirty.
You're very strong because it's a slippery slope after that.
That's it. It's like recording Saturday morning cartoons and eating your cereal after lunchtime and watching them back. It's just not the same.
That's right. So what? You've turned off Minesweeper with Solitaire.
Yeah, those have been disabled for a while. Actually, I haven't even. I think I've turned the PS4 on once or twice to play the new SAR expansion for Battlefield 1, and that's pretty much it since Vegas.
Yeah.
Don't get any time, man.
It's a time management thing, isn't it?
It is.
And then I guess on the movie front, when I was on the podcast last,
Yep.
I was all hyped up for The Dark Tower.
I still haven't seen it. Did you enjoy it?
I haven't seen it. I just saw all the black flags going up and that sort of thing. G'day.
Dan's just swung past. He's fucking doing glassy duty. He's not working. And even if he was working, he doesn't work at the pump house.
Wait a minute.
So our mate Dan's just walked past with 23 glasses in his hand.
Is he? I've noticed on the table here, you guys have a new little business card.
Yeah. Grab a card, man. It's just so people know who we are, and it's got all our details and shit on it. So
maybe Dan's sort of slipping it into their pockets as he goes by.
Let's hope so.
Get up close with a few glasses and then yoink.
That's it. I just realised I'm not fucking recording video. I'm going to be in trouble at the end of the night.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah. So we've got the video camera set up. We're supposedly, let's start recording. We're supposed to be recording video feeds from every episode now, so it just kind of adds a little bit of an extra layer to the podcast.
Yeah.
So they're all up on YouTube.
Yeah, okay. So, YouTube. Do you do the Facebook still? Or are you doing the Facebook?
Yeah, so we're still planning on doing Facebook Live episodes, but in between, when we're just doing a normal podcast, it's not from a live session.
Yeah.
We're still doing video feeds now, so if you check us out on YouTube, just search for us under Bounty Hunter Banter. You'll see all the old episodes that we didn't record video are up there as well. They've just got a little logo up there.
Yep.
And the last few episodes are full video.
You haven't thought about going back and doing like a George Lucas and like
special edition
special
in the gold foil box? Fuck that. We're not a sellout. We don't make any money from this shit.
And also, do you sort of like, now that you've got the cameras on, is it just sort of a bit more awareness? Or?
It's not for Dan and I. For Chris, every time we shut him down, he turns to the camera and appeals to the video audience.
Yeah. You can lean in and mouth.
Please support me in my love of Transformers 7.
Oh, right. Holds up a little sign
That's it.
with a hashtag or something.
Yeah, so it's good to have you here, man. I'm glad you made it.
No,
it looks like you've just come straight from work.
I have, yeah. Total groupie for life. I should have worn the Bounty Hunter shirts you gave me underneath. I just ripped it out.
Yeah, that's it.
Superman style. But it's been exciting seeing you guys, all the different events, all the different stuff to talk about the podcast, and the beers.
Thanks, man.
The beers as well.
Yeah, so this is my first try of the World 8 Peach Sour as well. It's fucking well balanced. I mean, I'm a little bit biased.
Of course. Just of course. But also, as was just saying before, it's the spring equinox today.
Yeah.
And I think I've just found my new
spring beer.
Spring beer, yeah.
It's a good one for it. It'll come into its own in summer too, I think.
I haven't got the good vocabulary. I'm still learning from you guys about the beer vocab.
Yeah.
I go to your. I think it was what's your usual phrase?
It's easy to drink. Fucking everyone gives me shit about saying that now.
Yeah. But no, this one's a good one. And is it only available?
It's only on draft. At the moment, it's at the Pumphouse. I actually don't know where else it is. I'm a pretty shit banner carrier for fucking Bounty Hunter Brewing, aren't I?
You got to do a plug, because I'd be out there, like, knowing where it is around town. I'd get a map of Sydney up and put pins in.
World 8. Here and here.
Yeah, here and here. They get a bit of ribbon type between it all. Just zero in where
we'll do a Victorian tourism ad with a big ball of yarn or something.
Going around town.
All right, well, it's good to have you on the podcast again, mate. We'll have to get you back out to Dan's fucking man cave.
The HQ.
His masturbatorium, I think I called it last time. We'll get you out for that soon.
Yeah, cool. No, all the best tonight.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right, so I'm now sitting with James.
G'day, guys.
And Tom Pigott from Uncle Hops.
Hey, guys. How you going?
You've both been on the show in the past, actually.
Oh,
good to have you both back.
Second comers.
Really.
So James, I've had join me, long friend. I've basically had join me as a security guard for this sort of area tonight. He was going to be my partner for the race as well, under the Banter logo, but we've been scratched. Because Chris can't count to 27, and so when 26 teams signed up, he just started adding extra people and forgot to add them to the actual list.
Yeah, right.
So, once again, Chris has fucked me over, but that's all right.
Yeah, not surprised.
And Tom, you've just come back from Narellan, you were saying?
Uralla.
Sorry. I was going to say Narellan's not that fucking far.
Yeah, no, up near Armidale. So
yeah, wow.
Oh, nice.
Good 6-hour drive back today.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Sweaty man in a car.
Yeah, 30-degree weather. It was good.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
So, no, we've just done a collab brew with them for Sydney Beer Week. So, with New England Brewing.
Yeah, cool.
Up there. So Carlo is one of the reps is here tonight.
Yep.
But I was up there with Reed, the head brewer, and the rest of the team, Ben and Justin and Jared. We were. There was one other. I didn't actually meet her. I didn't get introduced to her, but she was very nice to us, and she bought us a lot of beers, and I feel really shit now for not knowing her name.
So what sort of beer is it?
So it's going to be a New England IPA. So it's going to be hazy, juicy. There's going into the dry hop, for those who know, there's going to be about 6 kilos of hops going in there.
Yeah,
and
wow.
It's going to be shot through a hop cannon as well. So
cool.
Yeah,
it's going to be very hoppy.
It's going to be good.
Lots of resin.
Lots of resin. It came about from it's a bit of a funny tale. I'm a big NFL fan.
Yep.
And
no one's perfect, mate. It's all good.
I follow the New England Patriots. Not because I'm a bandwagon. My girlfriend is from Boston, so
yeah, fair enough.
If I don't, I will get shot. And shut up, Chris.
Fucking Chris's ass is on the camera at the moment.
That's glorious.
I'm glad we're recording that.
It's good he's been doing his squats. It's really working out for him. But yeah, no, I was drinking the New England lager while watching the Super Bowl last year, the Keg and Brew, and not the Keg, at the Horse, the White Horse in Surrey Hills, and this Keg and Brew was full.
It's not the White Horse I've been to on the Gold Coast, bro.
Probably not. And I drunkenly sent...
James has got a platinum card member.
Yeah, excellent. And I drunkenly sent Carlo a message, an email saying, "Oh, you know, it'd be funny if we did
We're going to have Chris just announce straight over the top of us.
Thanks, bro. If we did a collab beer and did it based on New England Brewing, New England Patriots, and got together, and so that's what we've done. And it's,
cool. So what labels are going to go under?
It's going to be New England Cross Uncle Hops.
Yeah, cool.
So down in Newtown, so it'll be good.
Nice.
So I'll have that on for the Thursday night in Beer Week.
Yep.
We'll have a tap takeover with those guys. So they'll have about 10 taps for the night.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah.
So that's next Thursday?
No, it's about
Look at Chris loves this shit, doesn't he?
Well, beer week's in about a month, so I think it's the 26th of October is the date. So
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
very good.
Yeah, well, we'll have to make our way down there.
Yeah.
If I don't kill Chris between now and then.
Oh, yeah.
It's looking more and more likely.
Even if you do, just get away from the cops.
Yeah, we'll hide you, man. We'll just put you straight in the cell. And he smacks your microphone. What a jerk.
Fucking Chris.
Like, I'm going to get hit now.
The beer you're brewing, going to be put on anywhere else, or is it just sort of like a specialty brew?
I think they're going to hopefully put it on at the tasting bar for anyone who's up that way. They said there'll probably be about 16 to 17 kegs.
Yeah, okay.
From the total brew, so we'll
That's
put
a
it
good
on.
run.
We'll put on a good run of it for us.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other venues in our group have some spare taps, so I might say, hey, do you guys want to put it on for something different?
Yep.
But yeah, I think it'll stay between us and them. But they might put it on a couple of other venues up north,
Yeah,
just
cool.
so they can get another brew of theirs out.
And has Uncle Hop's done any other beers? I mean, I
We've done a couple of small ones.
was going to say, I've never really seen the label out there as a beer.
Not just us. So this is the first one where we've gone into a brewery and said, hey,
We want to do a beer.
let's do one together.
Yeah,
And the other one we did one with Batch, which was across our group, and then one with Willie the Boatman was across a few of the venues in Newtown.
Yep.
But this is the one where I got to choose the hops we wanted to use. So we got 5 in.
Yep.
The one this one I really wanted to use was Rakau, which is a New Zealand hop.
Yep.
So we got that's the one that's going to have the most in the dry hopping. So it's super pungent. It's
nice.
really citrusy. It's going to be really nice.
Like smoking a reefer in a beer.
Kind of, yeah. I got to shovel all the spent grain and oats out. So they put a whole bunch of rolled oats in for the haziness, and then I got to visit the farm that they feed the sheep with.
Oh, wow.
With the spent grain there, so it's beer-fed lamb.
Yeah, wow.
And then
Okay,
ate
cool.
some beer-fed lamb later that night. It was absolutely amazing.
They didn't make you kill it yourself, do they?
No. It wasn't that fresh.
It was
Yeah. I heard all about it. The
circle of life
butcher was
shit going on
legend.
there.
Yeah. They've also, Uralla's a beautiful little country town, if you ever get the chance to go up there.
Yeah, okay.
And they've opened my eyes. I now have my new favourite saying. So they do, instead of breakfast beers, like on a Sunday for them, it's frothy chops. They call
Frothy
it
chops?
Frothy chops. Just going to have some frothy chops.
Frothy chops and a liquid lunch.
Yeah,
Sounds like
that's
a good-
genius.
It's
You
a
don't
three-course
get that
meal right
You
there.
get that in the country. That's awesome. Yeah.
Very cool.
But other than that, yeah, it's just business as usual, and I'm looking forward to. I really want to beat Chris in Mario Kart.
So when are you up?
Well, we got bumped because I didn't know how soon I'd be able to get back from driving from up north.
Yeah.
It's a good 6 hours away, so we got bumped to the start of the second round. So
So you're up against the winner between Bounty Hunter and Chode Blast.
I would love to meet Chode Blast.
I've got to say, the names are fantastic.
Yeah,
We've
they're
got Blue
awesome.
Waffles.
Yeah, Blue Waffles, Chode Blast.
That's definitely up there.
I had that as I was having my first sip of beer. I read it and I choked a little bit. I was like, oh, come on, guys.
And we've just been informed that we've been scratched because Chris fucked us. So.
Aren't you there in a second? Isn't that you?
No, so he's replaced us with another team. I'm not really sure who the other team is, but
That's right. Just take out his knees before the race.
No animosity whatsoever.
that's it.
Yeah.
No animosity.
And Dan's actually representing Australian Brewery and Bounty Hunter Brewing.
Well, I hope they don't meet in another round. That'll be real awkward.
Well,
You have to race two at
I
once.
pointed that out at the start of the night. Hey, Phil, I'm not sure he's going to be able to race himself.
Yeah.
Although, Dan plays with himself quite a lot. I just don't know if he'd be able to do it in public.
Well, there's a lot of people watching. Might get some performance anxiety.
That's it.
See what happens. It's a cracking crowd as well.
Yeah, it
Very
is. It's a great
impressed.
night.
Especially for a lot of the guys that I've noticed who are like me, working a bar and usually have to work Fridays. And
Yeah.
I've actually just rang the boss and was like, oh, this is a really awesome beer event I'm going to go to. Like, I might not be making my shift back at 7, so I'm just going to take a day off.
You're definitely not making the shift at 7.
No. So thanks, boss, if you're watching.
Cool. Thanks very much for that, Tomo.
No worries, man. Good to see you again.
Always good to chat. And James, I'm sure you're going to be a recurring guest tonight while we work through some guests as well.
While we drink our sorrows away.
That's right. Just sitting in the corner.
You can just heckle everyone. Just be like, we're not in it, so we're just going to have
Yeah, that's it. Did you just lose? Yeah, no, come sit down.
We've already got a rejection for the night.
We did. We did get a
Disappointed.
rejection.
Disappointed.
Who did we get a rejection from? What are you
Louise.
talking about? Sorry, Louise. No, we're going to get the Wives of Brewing on. There's a TV series right there.
Yeah. It's definitely a Netflix special.
Yeah, no, it's going to be like a Dr. Phil thing, I think. All right, thanks very much, guys.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cool. So I've got Brad Bishop with me. How are you, mate?
What's up? Good.
I'm surprised it's taken this long to get you on the show.
Yeah.
And we've got Mitchell as well, who's I've caught him just taking a swig of beer. How are you, mate?
I'm
Welcome
good.
to
How are
the
you,
show.
mate?
I'm good. So, mate, all the artwork.
Yeah.
All the amazing fucking artwork for Bounty Hunter Brewing.
He's so good, isn't he? Oh my god.
He is very, very talented.
Stay up hours on hours on that stuff.
Yeah, that's why my painting that I commissioned you to paint like a million years ago still isn't done, because Chris keeps jumping the fucking queue.
He does. I have been working on it this week though, and it's probably going to be the best artwork I've ever done. So.
Awesome, man. So have you been enjoying it? I mean, you must love your work, right?
Yeah, definitely. The Bounty Hunter stuff is probably my favorite shit to do, because it's like everything I fucking grew up on, and Chris is the best. Like, he just gives me.
Chris is the best. I'm glad we got that fucking recorded, man.
Yeah.
You might be the first person in history to ever fucking say that.
Can you talk shit about me? No.
Yeah, fucking oath. I was just saying you're a pedantic prick.
No, but it's good. He just lays it all out, and I just fucking follow, and it just turns out great. So.
Yeah, awesome.
Mitchell is best friends since childhood. He plays a lot of fucking. He used to play a lot of Mario Kart. I have a pretty good inkling that
Years of experience.
we can win this thing.
Yeah, cool.
I haven't played in 2 years, but
Right.
I came first in my first game, so...
Yeah, nice. So you smashed it in the first round?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
one
cool.
of the guys. Fuck good.
So Banter was told that we scratched and ended up getting called up anyway and fucking smashed it as well. So
Oh, really?
maybe we'll see you guys in the finals.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Actually terrifying.
Yeah.
So we're up against Stockade next, and I just bought this Stockade beer just to
You're sleeping with the enemy, Brad. What are you doing, mate? That's good. So what's the game plan for the next round? Who are you up?
Honestly, we went and had a cigarette. We looked at... Because Brad isn't super confident. He's good, he's not super confident. We've worked out that if we come first and fourth, we still get the win.
Yeah, okay. That works.
So that's the game plan.
carry me on his.
I'm not
broad
actually
shoulders.
allowed to win, so
You're not allowed to win.
I'm just going to pick the right players to face up against and throw the match. I'm taking bribes, fellas, so maybe we'll see how we go in the grand finals.
Wow.
You guys having a good time?
Yeah, I'm having a great time, man.
Definitely. This is sick. Nothing like playing games, having drinks.
Yeah, what else can you ask for, right?
Exactly.
Well, nothing that I'd ask for on mic.
Later.
That's it.
It's good seeing the guys from like 1989. These guys are fucking the bomb.
Yeah, fucking oath they are. And they did a good launch for the burnt marshmallow brown ale too.
Yeah.
What did you do, Ray? The copyright infringing beer. So what's next? Have you been given orders that you're not allowed to talk about a top secret project that you're doing the next artwork for?
I'm doing your thing.
Oh, well, carry on.
RuneScape.
Yeah, I got a couple of things up in the works after that.
Yeah. So how much notice do you get from Chris before you start working on
Chris,
artwork?
he says I'll give you 6 months, and then the week he's like, can I
months?
get it done in this week? And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, that's 6 months. Chris doesn't think 6 months
No, he
ahead.
doesn't. Yeah.
Be surprised if he knows where the cab is while it's waiting out the front beeping the horn.
He works much better than deadlines, though.
So how much direction? I mean, I kind of have an inkling because I'm behind the scenes, but for anyone listening, how much direction does Bounty Hunter Brewing give you for the artwork?
It's pretty much back and forth. Like, he does a detailed brief, and then he throws it to me.
He being Chris?
Yeah,
Chris.
Chris. He gives me a very detailed brief. He's got pretty much what he wants in his mind. He says it to me. I kind of throw up a draft, and he's like, "That's exactly what I was thinking." I'm like, "Yeah, hell yeah!" And then we just go back and forth from there. So like, he does give a lot of the direction, and I don't know. We just seem to be on the same page.
Yeah, cool. That's good. And Chris just keeps dropping in and out to fucking bug the hell out of us. It's all good. All right, well, I might leave you guys there. Thank you very much for joining us. It's so good to get you finally on the show, man. It has been a long time coming. And thanks very much, Mitchell. I appreciate
Nice
it,
meeting
mate.
you, man.
Cheers, likewise.
We'll see you in the finals, man.
That's it. So we have Chris again. Chris, who just won his second race.
Fucking oath. That's
And we
how we
have
roll.
Justin from Craft Beer.
What's it like winning?
Winning, well, it's like jerking off all day long. It's just a constant payoff. It feels good.
Yeah,
It's nice. It's lovely.
Wow, it just took a nosedive in the fucking banter.
And Craft Beer
Crew
Facebook page, which I am only newly familiar to because I was hit up by
Matt.
One of you guys. It was Matt, was it?
Let's go ahead and say Matt Brown. So, but
Yes, it was Matt Brown.
absolutely.
Indeed.
There's one Matt that is on all of Facebook that you can go to, facebook.com/Matt. And that's what it is. No, you can go to facebook.com and just go ahead and type in Facebook Craft Beer Crew.
Yep.
And they're a fine group of people that are now over 8,000, in fact,
Yeah,
individuals who are
That's heaps,
obsessed
man.
with craft beer and all things beer.
Questions everything from what beer can I have at my wedding to
Yeah.
what beer, what IPAs to drink to,
There
who
was
has
one
a shitty
tonight-
label to everything. Like it's,
There was a post tonight saying, "Where can I get this brand in
Yeah,
Australia?" It's fucking cool.
It's pretty cool because beer has become something that is more than just beer in Australia, which is
It's
phenomenal.
culture.
It's a culture. Like it really is like a part of the culture now.
Absolutely. When I go to, obviously I have a funny accent, so it's obvious that I'm
You
not
must be from New
around
Zealand.
here. Yeah, no, China. Shockingly. So it's kind of cool to see that when people go to America or they go to New Zealand or they go to China, they go and they, in fact, a bunch of people right now who are in Germany for Oktoberfest who are going out there and seeing all of the cool stuff that is out there for beer, and they're checking in and they're saying, hey, this is shit that we love, and you can go ahead and you can drink it, or you can enjoy it, or you can critique it, and you can go ahead and say, hey, the World 8 is amazing, or hey, the World 8 is terrible. This is something that you might like or you might hate, and you can enjoy it.
It's an accepted open forum as well. I think as well. Like it's totally all right to not think. And we've had this discussion on our normal podcast. Like sometimes we drink a beer, and by some other standards, we might go, "That's no good." Yeah. Not that it isn't good, but by our own individual standards and palates, maybe it's just not what we did.
Not only that, but we also, on the podcast, go out of our way to try some really fucking weird and wonderful beer,
stuff,
right? Yeah. So when you get something like just a standard pale ale...
Or a
it's
standard
kinda like,
lager would be a good example.
It's just like, it's a pale ale, next.
Yeah.
And it's actually usually a really well-made craft beer that someone's poured a lot of love and attention into to make a perfectly balanced pale. But, when you compare that against some of the fucking random shit we're trying, it's...
Yeah, there's no way in saying that it's bad.
No.
And there's nothing wrong
Not in Australia
with it.
anymore.
Absolutely.
You go back maybe 5 years in craft beer in Australia, you'd be...
Not even 5 years. So I moved here about 3.5 years ago, and when I first moved here, I moved from Wisconsin, which is in the United States, a state that is full of beer. In fact, our baseball team is called the Brewers, for God's sake. Beer.
Awesome.
And craft beer is a thing there. And when I first moved here, I moved to the Merrickville area, and I went into a pub, and I said, what do you have for a dark beer? And they said, we have an Amber. And I asked my wife if we could move back because that's not a thing that's okay.
Yeah.
There are so many different things that are right for different people. And I go into work, and I say, I love beer. And they're like, oh, do you know Akasha? I'm like, that's great. That's a start. That's a good place to go to say, okay, so what do you like about them? That's a cool thing. And, you can build out from there. So there are a lot of different things that are available to people for beer in Australia, which is
There's a lot of variety now.
And look, I can say I love a sour from one place, and I can say, look, I had the World 8, and then somebody say, that to me tastes to me like too much cranberry juice. Okay. Yeah. So let's try something that's a little more, maybe a little more aged, or a little more fresh, or whatever it is.
You can just you can build a starting point and build out from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I actually had a mate from my day job here earlier to support the launch of World 8, and he tried World 8 by itself, and he fucking loved it. He said it's one of the best sour beers he's ever tried. And then he came back like half an hour later and he said, what are you drinking? Because I ordered a beer, and he took a sip, and he said, oh, whatever you're drinking, that's fucking terrible. I don't know what that is, but it's horrible. It was the same fucking beer. It was another World 8.
Right.
And I said, what are you drinking? And he said, what did you do, Ray? And it's like, well, coming from that much chocolate in a fucking brown ale to a peach sour.
It's going to taste like fucking water. essentially.
My point is, when you're trying craft beer, if you really want to appreciate craft beer, it's about developing your palate, and it's about understanding what it is you're drinking.
Here's the important question. How did you guys do in the race?
So look, there are good things and bad things that happen.
You lost
within every race, and I might have been
part of the bad
recruited
things
to join a different team after my first team lost.
We've had a bit of that. We've had a bit of team shuffling going on. Apart with the confusion of us having to remember and write and scratch out and rub out and who knows what the fuck's going on.
Look, there's chalk and there's chalkboards.
Yeah.
And then there are sometimes that your friends say, hey, well, our friends haven't showed up here today. So could you come and join our second team and still perform like shit the second time? By the way, I spent about 15 years on the radio, and it's fucking weird to me to say the words fucking and shit in front of a microphone.
You can even say
better wing it out.
You need to be able to mark it.
I'm going to be fucking that shit up every now and again. I'll make Pete's job a good job.
I can't say it. Like, there are words that I can say, fucking shit. I can't make eye contact while I do it. But the word, as an American, is a word that I'm not allowed to use. Thank you for marking that.
Word. It's a horrendous word.
That's why Chris uses it.
When you look someone in the eyes and say... But...
I'm glad we've got the cool sound effect for the C-bomb. Because otherwise people are just going to be going, why does it keep muting? Is there something wrong with my stereo?
There's a lot of it going on.
This is a little bit weird.
We've had you guys... This has all just been a bit of a crazy, chaotic fucking event tonight.
And you've got Doc from Doctor's Orders' ass right next to Chris's face.
No, it's not like right next to.
It was a second ago.
I mean, like,
enough.
if you were to bend over and spread, absolutely.
I
Ass and sweaty balls.
Yeah. It's all around me. You guys are all right.
Because Chris gave us an awesome spot in the corner of the function, which I actually think is a really good spot.
It's a nice spot.
But unfortunately, the chalkboard is right next to where we're recording, so people keep walking through the recording gear because they've got squinty eyes and they fucking can't see the board.
Well, no, you hand enough people enough booze, they need to be close.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think I've made a couple of random fucking yelling and screaming motions as I've come through here as well while you guys have been recording, so I apologise for that.
That's right.
You get that on the big jobs.
I've lost my phone as well. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere around here.
Can someone call you?
Yeah, but I'm not going to hear it. So
no, that's true.
Fair point.
There's no point.
We'll find it. There's about 8,000 people's gear locked up right behind me, so I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, I think we might cycle some people through now that the playing field's thinning out a little bit.
Yeah, it's
people are
to.
a little less focused on the screens and more focused on drinking and talking.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, Justin.
Look, if I were to ask you guys, from a Mario perspective, what is the best Mario... Not the best Mario to play. The best Mario racer to play. The best kart racer.
Lost. So Bounty Hunter Banter's just lost out to Young Henry's. So don't ask me.
I've been smashing Metal Mario. Metal Mario, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the N64 version, you pick up the power-up to go Metal Mario, so you can sink to the bottom of the ocean and stuff and run around and walk around and pick up the collectibles there.
Okay.
On the N64. If I'm wrong, people who's listening, I'm sorry. I'm not a Nintendo person, but that's what I remember. Whether I was on too much acid or weed, I don't know. But Metal Mario, that was the point of him. So I've been using him.
And if Chris was wrong, feedback at bhbanter.com. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, by all means. Send through your feedback. Tell me I'm wrong. All right, cool, man. Well, I'm going to duck off, see what's happening with the races, and see if I can find my phone. Maybe grab another beer.
Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks, Justin. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, mate.
Cool, guys.
Yeah, so we've still got Justin here, and we've also got Doc from Doctor's Orders. How are you, Doc?
I'm doing awesome, and you guys?
Yeah, not too bad. Having a good time. So I've come to interrogate you about where Flesh Wound got to. So you pretty much focus on one-off releases, is that right?
We've done a bit of everything over the years. We did have a core lineup for the 4 seasons for a couple of years, but then the beer industry moved on, and they always wanted the new thing, what's new, what's different, and everything else. And we just noticed that our beers weren't moving as fast as we'd like, and that obviously causes a bit of a cash flow problem. So we just decided probably about 18 months ago just to change it all up and just make every every season a new beer, and that's working really well for us.
Yeah, cool.
Probably about
So the latest one's Nucleus Flyer, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Nucleus is the latest one. It's the spring seasonal, so it's been out in market probably about 2 weeks in package, and a little bit longer, probably another week on top of that in draft. It's a sort of a twist on a beer we did in 2011, which was a Belgian oatmeal IPA. That was called Pulse, and that was sort of just something that we didn't ever plan to do, but it was just one of the beers I brewed in my pilot brewery at home, and I was like, shit, this is good. I should do this as a commercial beer.
As a drinker, I'm going to go ahead and call you out on that one. It feels like you're just saying words, Belgian oatmeal and IPA, that don't necessarily go together. Explain to me how that works.
Well, that's it. It's like Doctor's Order's not about styles, it's about flavor. And mixing a couple of different styles together and coming up with something new. So, you don't just put squid ink in a beer for the sake of it. You do it for a reason. Hence the reason that we did it. Same with making an oatmeal IPA in 2011. That wasn't a thing. That's sort of usually me mixing different beers together and saying, "Oh, that's quite interesting. That's a nice flavour. How about I just go and try and brew a beer that is that beer from first principles rather than trying to blend two beers together?" And that's where usually it's a mix of styles, a mix of colours, and a combination thereof that usually ends up with something that's interesting. Hence, sort of a bit of a sort of a red IPA versus Stein beer, which is the flesh wound that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, sort of making sort of something a little bit different, but take an old world style and adding some new ingredients and adding a little bit of smoke and other bits and pieces as well, volcanic rocks, and bam, new beer.
Yeah, look, I've been meaning to get you on the show for a long time because Flesh Wound is still my favourite beer of all time. I don't know what it is about it, but every time I crack a bottle, it's just bliss in a bottle.
It's probably a little bit of the nice sugary content, a little bit of the complexity, and it just drinks really well.
Yeah, it does. It does. I always say on the show that it's easy to drink, but it's probably the beer that I would sit on for hours if I had a six-pack. It's getting harder and harder to find, though.
Well, yeah, it's because everything's now just like it's sort of basically a one-off release.
Yeah.
So that one we did a little bit.
And apparently Dan was saying it was a bit of a bitch to make too, with all the volcanic rock being dunked into the wort.
Yeah. So there's a long story to that. A very long story.
Apparently there's a video too.
There's a 3-year story to that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So probably about must have been 3 or 4 years ago. Dan and Neil at the Australian and Dr. Zotters were going to do a collaboration. So we thought, we'll do a Stein beer because that fits me.
Yep.
We'll call it Flesh Wound. That fits sort of my branding. It's a little bit edgy for them, but it's something a little bit different. And we'll do it. And it also culminated in around the same time around Good Beer Week in Melbourne, the Great Australian Beer Spectacular, a few other bits and pieces. So I wasn't actually able to be there on Beer Day, but I was able to Brew Day, but I was able to this is sort of the recipe that I'm thinking. We worked on it together, but the actual Brew Day itself was done by sort of Neil and Dan.
Yeah.
And Neil sourced the rocks, and Dan sourced one of the local guys out at the brewery that's pretty handy with a welder and everything else, and welded up a cage that could hold these superheated volcanic rocks, and they made a fire and they did some other shit.
Yep.
And it's lovely.
It's very Dan too.
We sort of discussed a lot of it, and sort of Neil had the ideas, Dan made some of it happen, Neil was in charge of a few bits and pieces, and that's probably where it fell down a little bit, because the execution meant that the beer didn't taste too good in tank.
Right.
So we dumped it. And we had another crack at it, trying to work out what was wrong. At that time, I was somewhere else overseas, and I wasn't there for that brew day again. And that one also turned out pretty ordinary. So we dumped that one as well.
Wow.
And then we shelved the product, shelved the project. So that was probably 2013.
Yep.
So this is going to come from as a question from a homebrewer who pretends to know what the fuck he's doing. But when you say it didn't taste good, so my wife, go ahead and she sucked out. That's a terrible way to put that. But did a mouth siphon to be able to get things into the bottles, and she said, "Hey, this tastes good." When you say it didn't taste good in the tanks, what does that mean?
There was some lingering flavors in there that just didn't drink well. So it was like a really intense bitterness. It was a real sort of astringency that was there as well, and it just wasn't a product that either of us wanted to release. So whilst I wasn't there for the brew day, but I was there for the concept, the recipe, and everything else, I was still part of tasting it and going, no.
Plus, so would you walk into obviously when you're designing a recipe, you have some sort of notion of what the beer is going to taste like when it comes out the other end. And is that really the litmus test to say, well, it's not what I imagined it to be? Or is that more of an adjustment of sometimes that you have to adjust what you imagined it to be versus reality?
So yeah, it can vary. So you don't always get what you expect.
Yeah.
But as long as you got something that's a good product and it is close enough, and you can maybe tweak it if you do it again, then that's generally pretty cool. But when you don't even get something that's even close to what you're aiming for, and it's not right, and you can't sort of then say, well, we're aiming for this, but we got this, and we'll rebrand it, repackage it based on what it is, then you're in that sort of spot where it's like, no.
Yeah,
and
dump it.
And that's where we're at.
So you get happy accidents, and then you just get the fails. Let's tweak the recipe.
Yeah, well, there's different levels of fail. Like, you often have equipment failures, you have other failures during production and stuff like that, and then sometimes you just end up with something that's completely different what you're going for, but you just roll with it and it is what it is, and then you do with it what you need to, or you get to a point it's like, nah, it's
time to go.
It's just like cut your losses, piss it off, move on, forget about it.
And you've also got someone's very excited about winning.
Moondog have just got up, I think.
And you've got Dr. Shedlove, which is your winter beer this year too. Which I think was
so that's our annual collaboration with Big Shed Brewing in Adelaide. This is our third year doing it with them, and the premise behind that is every year we do an Imperial Stout, but every year we change the root vegetables, and every year we change the yeast.
Oh, was it carrot this year? Is that right?
So this year was carrots.
My memory serving me well tonight.
And this year was also like a big sort of almost like an imperial sort of pale ale type yeast that we used. Last year was yams and taro with a Belgian yeast, and the year before was kumara with a saison yeast.
It would have been an interesting mix. I have to admit, I haven't tried the Dr. Shedlove this year, unfortunately.
So this year's got a little bit more of so the kumara, the yam and taro from the 2016 had a bit of a sweeter body to it from the imperial sort of stout.
Yep.
This year it doesn't sort of, that sweetness is sort of gone, and we've got quite a little bit of bitterness from the outside of the carrots or from the carrots themselves, and that actually came through quite nice. But then with the oak chips and everything else as well,
kind of balances it
out a bit more. So I reckon this year's probably got a bit more drinkability. Probably a little bit less on the Imperial Stout side, whereas last year was sort of a bit more of that body sweetness in the middle of the body that really gives it that sort of Imperial Stout, that sort of like real winter warmer type thing.
Yeah, well, it's perfect for a winter beer too. And carrots in beer, I mean, I haven't heard of many carrot beers out there. There might be a couple.
There's only two I know of. It's the one that we did this year, and then Wade at Four Huts Brewing in Queensland did one for Gabs a couple of years ago. Made a bit of showcase for it, got on the national news and a few other bits and pieces.
Yeah, wow. So, and Tonic's still around, I think, too. I think Dan's spoken about Tonic on the podcast before. This ended up with you doing a kind of a nosedive down the rabbit hole in researching gins and how to balance against the tonic.
Yeah, so Tonic was the beer we first did in 2014 with Yeasty Boys and Weedy Brewing Co. So every year I do a beer with the Wheat Shift Hotel in Adelaide, the Weedy Brewing Corps. In 2014, that was a beer we called Tonic. We used Shinkona bark as the bittering agent rather than hops. We use botanicals and everything else to make basically the beer, the tonic. You get a shot of gin to it and the whole thing comes alive.
Yeah.
And that went sort of, it was basically only at the venue and a couple of kegs outside that, one in New Zealand, one here from an event that I did, and that was basically it. So last summer, having been in Cairns, that was our first beer in Cairns actually. And we did it last summer. We paired with a little craft distiller from Mudgee who do a real citrus-forward gin. And we did a release party and everything for that, and that was just huge. So yeah,
it's a beautiful beer.
And I don't know, when's this going to air? Do you want to scoop?
Yeah, sure. It'll go to air on Sunday, actually.
Okay, so Tonic's coming back this summer.
Oh, fantastic.
It's having a couple of tweaks with it, and we're pairing with a new, a different gin partner, and it's going to be the summer of gins and tins.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. I don't know if you have you tried tonic before, Justin?
I have a now pregnant wife who is due the end of March, who loves both gin and tonic. So if you could go ahead and delay that for a few months, we'd be your biggest customer. But
I think Doc's just as likely to delay that as your wife is to delay the pregnancy.
Yeah, so like I said, we've partnered up with an international gin company for this summer, and I think it's going to sell out pretty quick. We've got a few events, a few launch parties, and everything else sorted out for it. It's gonna.
It's literally the only beer I've ever heard of that you can drink by itself, and it's a standalone beer. It's a very. I mean, this year was a really light body. Was it a wheat beer?
Yeah, so we did it as a wit beer / tonic mixer.
Yeah,
is how we labelled it. So yeah, on its own, it was sort of a pretty easy drinking. But you had a little bit of that botanicals, nothing too over the top. But as soon as you added a shot of gin to it, the whole thing came alive. So you got 1 + 1 is 3 rather than just
that's fascinating because there's so many Boilermakers. You drop a shot of whiskey into a beer that people just love, and there isn't a lot of other alcohol that is dropped into or mixed into beer necessarily that is beloved or is in any way interesting, because we love our beers, we love our alcohols, and we keep those spirits very
in a separate cabinet.
Yeah. I think that's very fascinating that we're going to do that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. So originally it was Yeasty Boys Stew from Yeasty Boys, myself just shooting the shit, sort of like, we're doing a collaboration, we're doing it at the Weedy Brewing Corp, what are we going to do? And the name came first. Like, Stu's like, well, I've always wanted to do a beer called Tonic. No. So I think I said, maybe I said I wanted to always do a beer called Tonic. He goes, well, if I do a beer called Tonic, then we're going to use Shinkona bark in it, like you would for a tonic water and everything else. It's like, well, if we're doing that, well, then we'll make the beer the tonic and then we'll add gin to it.
Yeah.
So we had to smuggle the Shinkona bark into the country, because at that point in time, you couldn't get into the country.
Wow.
So he smuggled it in from New Zealand, because New Zealand was about a year ahead of us in terms of being able to import that sort of bark as a raw product that you could buy. And then we basically brewed it and just like winged it, because there was no pilot.
There was only got one run of the product too.
Yeah. So basically we just brewed 600 litres of it and just winged it. And then for the launch of it, just before the launch, I went down and saw Jade, and we just basically went through all the gins she had in the bar and worked out what worked with it. And it was like the Plymouth gin, and there was another gin she had on the bar that just happened to work really well with it. So then when I did it again to the last year, it was like, okay, it was more the citrus sort of forward or the cucumber-based gins that worked well with it. So I tweaked the recipe so that I could do that even more, and that's why it was such a hit last year. This year I'm tweaking it again, amping it up a little bit more. So the base beer will be a little bit more of a beer, or a bit more flavoursome as sort of a beer, as standalone. But as soon as you add the gin to it, the aromatics and everything else is just going to
unleash. So what sort of gins are we going to be looking for to match that?
So you're looking for a really good sort of dry English gin, London gin, and then something which has some complementary botanicals in it for what we're doing. So
yeah, cool.
That's probably about all I can say without giving away who the partner is.
All right, Doc, thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we finally got you on the podcast too.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
Appreciate your time. And Justin, thank you again.
Of course, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and the comfy seats. Thanks, guys.
A little bit of preemptive Googling.
So I am currently being joined by Tom Pigott from Uncle Hops.
Hello.
And Marcus Maximus, Chris's brother. And also one of the people that came up with you were the guy that came up with the term Bounty Hunter.
That I was.
On a rainy Friday afternoon on WhatsApp.
Yeah, right.
Where we're all spitballing ideas for the name of the brewing company.
And 5 minutes later, Dan posts the copyrighted name.
That's right. It was literally like 5 minutes later. That guy must have been on the fucking internet ready to go.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the registration certificate, fuckers.
You guys have suggested it, so here we go.
So we're going to have a Star Wars-a-thon, are we?
Well, one page I managed to stumble on recently was a page all about random facts from Star Wars that people know about. It's something I sort of saved up for this show. I always thought would be a relevant topic.
Okay.
And one of the things I thought was quite interesting was apparently the reason that Darth Vader can't use Force lightning is because he has robot hands. I want to get your thoughts on that.
I've read that in a couple. I've seen a couple like that pop up a couple of times, and then
it does make sense.
It's one of those things though that you can see because it's meant to channel through his
skin.
And his connection to the Force, and it's also meant to be that it's a way to make him less powerful than Palpatine.
Yeah.
Which I think makes a lot of sense. That Palpatine would be like, hey, I can do this, you can't. That's why you can. Because Count Dooku, he was always like, that's why he had him executed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I can understand why he would say, oh, well, no, you can't because you got no hands. Like, that makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think Anakin was always so powerful with the Force that you could never underestimate him and what he would be able to do. But
the one thing he couldn't do is not be a whiny bitch through any movie that he was in.
Well, no, but that's also his intrinsic character. Like, he can't do that because of who he is. He's just a shit bloke.
His natural personality. He's a
yeah.
I don't like sand.
Mark that.
I did. So there's lots of rumors going around about the Han Solo movie too.
Yes.
And they've gone through 37 directors, I heard.
Well, Ron Howard's come in to finish it off.
I know, right?
It's going to be a real serious end to that movie.
But it's going to be so... are you guys worried that it's going to be a disjointed movie?
For me, the way I see it, Star Wars has hit its peak with Rogue One. I can't see them doing any better. The reason I say that is because with a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford, and I heard some rumors that he may be coming in for like some later on sort of scenes and how that's going to fit, I can't imagine. But
have to get him off his Zimmer frame first, right?
Yeah,
it's
pretty
like
much.
100 years old.
Just tell him not to crash any light planes just before filming. That'd be nice.
The same as getting another getting him and Sean Connery in for a fucking another Indiana Jones. It's like, it's time.
You named a dog, Indy.
You didn't bring the Holy Grail diary, did you, Sean? It's just, I don't know. I mean, I think as fans, we don't like them passing the torch on to new actors because it's not the same. But at the same time, if you want to keep the storyline alive, you kind of have to.
Well, it's one of those things that come, and sorry not to distract from the whole Star Wars conversation, but with Marvel, where they're talking about Robert Downey Jr. is about to pass the torch of Iron Man. It's like, well, you look at the way the characters have developed in the comics, and I think this harkens back to the way that Star Wars just got a couple of years ago, got rebought by Marvel, and now they're redistributing the comics again.
Yeah.
And those Darth Vader comics that Dan brought up at the Uncle Hops podcast are sensational stories about the character that is.
They're actually interesting stories again. They're not just rehashing.
You really get invested in them and you just want to keep reading it. And I think that's something you have to figure out in this whole cinematic universe that everyone seems to be doing now that Marvel's done it. Like, the DC one, we just...
Well, let's face it, it's just
who knows what the fuck's
a way of printing money.
Yeah. But, like, the whole, like, the monsters, like the Godzilla... Mummy, Frankenstein, like, that's stretching it. Like, the Aliens Predator one was like, it was funny to start with, and now you're kind of like, oh, that was really sad. Like, like, I love Predator. Like, this is the best thought. So I used to do cadets with school. So you go to army camps and camp out in the bush, and one kid on the camp could do the perfect Predator noise, like the clicking, and he would hide in the bushes and
scare the fuck out of people.
Wait till the young kids walk past and make that noise, knowing they've just watched the movie at dinner, and watch them completely shit themselves.
So
hilarious.
I too went to Army Cadets, and all we did was scare the Norfolk Islanders from drop bears. And Mark's in the fucking Navy.
That I am.
No one believes in drop bears anymore. It's the saddest thing. My girlfriend's from Boston. She's a beautiful girl, but she's too smart. She's telling. That's the thing. She's telling everyone that drop bears don't exist. I'm like, can you stop it? That's our one fun thing.
She'd be handing out jars of Vegemite.
Yeah.
Rub this on your face. It'll keep the drop bears away.
Yeah. But back to Star Wars and the whole passing the Han Solo torch. Like, you got to do it eventually. Like,
I think a better way of doing it, one thing I really appreciated in the mid-90s was the movie The Rock, if you remember that. And to me, going back to Sean Connery, he played a very I guess, a subtle tribute to James Bond. It's like what sort of happened to James Bond later on without calling him James Bond. He was a British spy or assassin, whatever he was. They got captured, locked away. We're dragging him out again, and he's still amazing and awesome.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the things I loved about Rogue One, which to me is the epitome of all Star Wars, is that it sort of captured all the parts of Star Wars without overdoing it. As far as I'm concerned, the core storyline is all about one family fucking up the whole universe.
The Skywalker family fucking shit up,
Yeah, exactly. Where I feel there's so much more going on, and that's where the expanded universe, goes into those, all the comics and games especially that look into all those sides of it, which I think really have a lot of potential and a lot to look into. But the fact that we're going back in, redoing Han Solo, redoing Boba Fett.
They need to expand the storylines. The original extended universe, the novels, because I've read
insane.
I've read maybe 30 or 40 Star Wars novels before they kind of condensed
the Karen
it all.
Travis Clone Commando series.
Even
that
the
was
stuff,
the peak. That was the peak for talking about Boba Fett. That was the peak thing of like talking about Mandalore and the way they did it.
Yeah.
And then Clone Wars, the Star Wars TV show, went in and did a Mandalorian-based...
And they didn't do a bad job of it either.
They didn't, but they still kind of...
Well, they were never going to do it at the same sort of depth as the novels explored. But
of course
But even some of the bridging books they released around The Phantom Menace, I mean, The Phantom Menace was not the greatest movie.
No.
I'm going to say a fucking travesty, but I'll just say it's not the greatest movie.
Great CGI.
But the books they released to give... all the characters a lot more backstory were really well-written books.
Yeah.
They were standalone stories. They didn't need to lean on the rest of the cinematic universe as it stood at the time. It was just telling a cool story in the Star Wars universe.
Well, I read one of those articles today, which is the foreshadowing events from the prequels and all the things they talked about, like the classic image of young Anakin in front of the Tatooine hut, where it shows the Darth Vader silhouette and everything they did. But there was a couple of ones that they brought up that I'd thought about but never really processed, and there was the great one of in Revenge of the Sith when Obi-Wan's going to Utapau to fight General Grievous.
Yep.
And so he stands in the light, but Anakin stays entirely in the dark. I don't know if you remember that scene, and they were like, that's foreshadowing their whole when he says goodbye, my old friend. And everyone picked up on the whole goodbye, but it was that simple thing with the light, and they talked about the whole things like that. And
it was the last time. It was his friend, because after that he became Darth Vader, of course.
Yeah.
I still maintain that the Anakin Obi-Wan is the best fight of the whole prequel trilogy.
Right.
Purely based on the fact that it's two identical lightsabers and you can't automatically tell who's winning.
Yeah.
I think that really adds to something to the effect, and it's a whole...
I still get shivers watching it, and when he tells him he's the chosen one,
Yeah.
or you were meant to be the chosen one, I still get fucking shivers in that scene. It's just every time Anakin's on the screen, I just want to fucking stab him in the eyeballs.
I did get pretty shitty because I'd read a bunch of the whole novels as well. And do you remember the Mace Windu novel about his trip?
Yes, I did. And the Tarak-Kazi fucking training that he went through.
And they barely showed it. And I was like, come on, you can't write a whole thing about that and talk about his where he teeters on the edge of the dark side in terms of his lightsaber fighting, and then you include it and
And he just wanted a purple lightsaber. That's all. Sam
Yeah,
L. Jackson.
I heard about that.
Motherfucking purple lightsaber on a motherfucking plane.
George Lucas apparently hated the idea, but agreed to it in the end.
And it fucking worked, man. It was the sickest looking fucking lightsaber.
It was just one of those things. It was just, and in the whole you send 4 Jedi Masters after 1 Sith Lord. Surely they can last longer than 2 seconds. I know it's a whole movie and it's the whole thing, but come on, guys.
I mean, you talk about Rogue One being the kind of the peak of the cinematic universe, but 2 years ago, what was Rogue One?
Well, for me, the reason I love Rogue One so much is that it doesn't focus so much on the Jedi, the religious side of it. It's not all about lightsabers and that side of things. It's more about the greater military fight, and that's something that I love.
It makes it more of a war story
exactly
than a superhero story.
It's so much larger that way, and games like TIE Fighter from, I don't know if you remember that back in the day, just the fact that it didn't have any of that supernatural magic bullshit in it, it just made it so much more real.
The reason I asked the question is I can't see how they don't have a bunch more awesome movies if they move away from the main story.
Kenobi's next.
But that's what I'm talking about. All they're doing is cashing in on existing characters from the original trilogy that everyone knows and loves.
Have you read the Kenobi comics in between?
No, I haven't.
Oh, get amongst them, dude. Like, it's some really, really cool shit. Especially Kenobi on Tatooine. So there's one where he fights...
does he make blue milk? Does he milk a blue cow?
He does not milk a blue cow. That is all Aunt Beru. And then she gets burnt. Seriously.
Yeah, crispy.
Yeah. Shard Hutt, who used to be a Jedi, but then he falls in with the Sand People because his dad was a Sand person.
Right.
Sand person is
we
don't know. Like, is that being really politically correct? Like, but Shard Hutt, as he's called, like, he lives on Tatooine, and Obi-Wan is so focused on protecting Luke, and Shahad senses him through the Force, and it's like how Obi-Wan is like gone to these extreme measures to protect Luke before he's even become Force aware. And so I'm really, at the moment, I'm like, I've really got to get into Rebels because they're getting into really cool stuff. I haven't watched any. I've watched a couple of episodes here and there, but I haven't watched much of it because I loved Clone Wars. I watched all 5 seasons, and then the 6th Lost season came out, and I've seen like 2 or 3 episodes. I've got to watch them, and then I want to get.
I'm miles
Rebels.
away. I'm like halfway through season 1.
Like, I got into it when it first came out, and I used to watch it on a Saturday morning. Like, I'd get up for it after work and kind of thing. But like they told some really, really cool story arcs. They featured Clone Commandos once, which I lost my shit.
Yeah,
I loved Clone Commandos. That was one of the greatest Star Wars games I've ever played as well. Like, that Clone Commandos, Republic
Absolutely.
Order, that was so good.
Again, I love it because it's the generic military sort of side of things.
That was the best thing about the original Battlefront 2 was that you played that generic soldier. And I'm excited for the next Battlefront 2.
Yeah. So am I. Yeah. I hate to admit it, especially after...
I've pre-ordered it. I've got it coming. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did love the first one, but it definitely was lacking a lot of content.
Well, I don't think... I think that's one of the things. You can't ignore the prequel trilogy because there were some really fantastic elements to it that may not have been executed in the movies, but for that expanded kind of universe...
Roger.
One of my favourite levels on the whole original Battlefront 2 was the Camino fight. Where you were like, literally all the clone commandos that were going to come after you were at peril and you had to save them. And it was like that kind of desperate fight that made it really, really cool. And like,
I just think I really think they should just look at other storylines outside of the core characters that they've done to death.
I'd love a story on Wedge Antilles.
Yeah,
and going through with him, the whole Rogue Squadron, the original Rogue Squadron that I knew.
That storyline, the books, that was one of the best storylines I've ever read.
What about Force Unleashed? I mean, they had they had 2 games.
I loved Starkiller. I loved it.
Yeah,
not a fan.
But at least they were attempting to tell a new story that involved Jedis that didn't involve all the characters everyone had already cashed in on.
It made a lot of sense. I love the Nar Shaddaa level where you went and met Khan Rhoda, and it was like that cool kind of the seedy. I was 13. Can we all just pour out a beer for that?
It's the first game I ever fucking platinumed on the PlayStation Network.
No, mine wasn't. Mine was one of the Uncharted's, but it was pretty close. It was like the next one I did, but it was one of those things. I love that game. Like, I know a lot of people talked about how stupid it was, but I love that level where you had to
pull down the Star Destroyer.
Something so badass about it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Force Unleashed too. Like,
but I
understood the story they were trying to do. Like, because it harkened a lot to the extended universe, like the whole Hair the Empire series with the clones and everything. But I understood it got a little bit too far. And like,
to pull it back to that games and movie sort of references, one thing I absolutely loved about Rogue One was the scene where the Y-Wings are flying in for the bombing run onto the Star Destroyer using their ion bombs. It's something you did in TIE Fighter that was never brought back into the movies.
There was that one level in the original, in Rogue Squadron, the original Rogue Squadron, where they even made the joke about flying Y-Wings was slower than moving a hut on a cold day or something.
Yeah.
And like I remember listening to that like through my shitty CRT speakers on my TV and being like, yeah, huts are slow. Tom, what the fuck are you talking about?
Those bombers were terrible, and then the tie bomber obviously.
But I
as well,
loved them. I used to make them out of like the old M&M mini packets. I don't know if you guys did that. You could clip 3 together, and then I'd be flying. And Mum would like, "I'll buy you a Y-wing toy." I'm like, "Will you?" And she goes, "Yeah, if you stop making M&M packet toys." You poor kid.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all these fucking M&Ms you poured on the kitchen floor.
I was pretending to be a vacuum cleaner and then running around the kitchen going, "Buffle, buffle, buffle, buffle," just eating up M&Ms. No one's business, but yeah, like it's just those kind of things, and that was the best thing about Rogue One was that it brought in those elements that you'd always thought about and always wished to be. Like I've always wanted to be a Rogue Squadron pilot. Like I dream about that. Like oh, how cool would that be? And especially reading the books and like the way they describe the battles as well. It's so much more in depth than the movies will ever be able to show. With the whole like some guy will lose his back shields but he has his front shield still and how like they can
it was X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
And that's the thing, those core concepts were developed, however many years ago, and just the fact that they've been able to expand on it, even just a little bit in Rogue One, I'm hoping they do have those moments where they hark back to, sort of the games and the deeper sort of detail, if you will.
Yeah. But that was what I mean, look, that was the attraction for the original series, right? Lucas created a universe that felt lived in.
I think that was the most disappointing thing for me about the first new Battlefront game was the ships were never felt like they should in the
It was
books.
arcade, that's the problem.
Yeah,
it was arcade.
A TIE fighter should never be able to take as many hits as an X-Wing.
But it was the first time you've got 32 or 64 players in a three-dimensional space fucking shooting ships at each other.
It has to be equal as well, but
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to flying the Sith Infiltrator.
I'm looking forward to fucking the VR shit. Because they have announced that Battlefront 2 will include VR out of the box. They just haven't stated what elements will be VR and what won't.
Did you play the VR for that? How was it?
I jizzed my pants.
I had a run on it as well. It was amazing.
That was
like a dream come true.
That and the Batman Arkham VR were the two things that really are pushing me over because except for my tax return to pay for a VR.
I wept when the loading screen came up for Battlefront and that AT-AT's just walking over and you're just looking up at it and just shitting your pants.
Craning your neck to look up at an AT-AT.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
AT-AT or AT-AT?
Look, I've always called it AT-AT, but they've recently said, officially, it's an AT-AT. Officially, you're a fucking retard.
But what do you, is it an AT?
Exactly right. That's my point too.
Yeah, like I just think the way they treated the ships as well in Rogue One was you felt them more like
the GoPro, just plugged onto the side of an engine or whatever as it was flying down.
I will say I was cheering when you saw the original actors come through for some of those like shots.
Yeah,
like that, like the Moff Tarkin and Leia thing. I was like, that's cool, a little weird, like. It's a little confronting, but seeing Red Leader come up again and calling shit out.
Wedge wasn't there. That's my biggest argument.
Yeah,
that's what
Wedge Antilles is one of the greatest characters in Star Wars history.
Yes.
Can we talk about how good Wedge Antilles is?
Underrated characters.
He gets, a couple of shots in the movies where he does almost everything in terms of destroying Death Stars. In the books, he's running the most elite squadron of X-Wings, which is... I would literally kill someone here for an X-Wing right now. If they were like, hey Tom, you've had 6 beers, but you get to fly home in your X-Wing if you kill that man, I'd be like,
give me something to kill him.
Give me the knife. Yeah. What man is going off the balcony? With it. But yeah, like it's just like it's one of those. It's such an iconic craft and such like a desirable thing as well. Like it harkens back to those whole Spitfires, and I know that's where he based it off.
It's an ace flyer thing.
And the way they talk about it in the books as well, where they're painting TIE fighters on their fuselage.
Yeah.
And like you keep track of them, and I think it was as well because it was probably one of the first stories I ever read of the extended universe where the Force kind of existed in what was his name? One of the pilots had like minute Force abilities. But it wasn't a Skywalker or
I can do magical shit that no one else can do.
I can lift.
I've just got really fast reflexes.
Yeah.
Can you just say that?
Yeah. I'm the only human who can do pod racing. It's working.
Oh my god.
It's working.
So, any closing remarks before we finalise this geek out for Star Wars?
Last Jedi, I think, will be plural.
Ooh.
I think will be plural. I've read a lot of both sides of the argument, but the more I feel about it, it is. I feel it's more. As much as I would like to see Luke go full grey Jedi, where he's like, I don't care about the balance of the Force. I'm
just here to fuck some shit up.
I've been so fucked over by the whole balance of the Force thing. I've lost my father. I haven't been a chance to build a family because Mara's not in it.
No.
Mara Jade was a fucking legend as well. I don't know why they killed her off. I think it'll be Rey is his chance for redemption.
Yep.
And it will bring him back from a Grey Jedi brink kind of thing, where he's like, I'm over it, I'm done. And she'll be like, I believe in it, and it'll probably bring him back. I don't know, like, call me stupid, but I really think that Last Jedi will be plural, and I see a pretty cool showdown between her and Kylo Ren. I don't think it'll be this whiny. I know you hated him in the first. I know you thought he was a whiny bitch, a la Anakin in all three prequels.
Sure.
I remember that from our first talk.
Yeah.
But I really think that he will. He'll go properly full dark. I think he'll go nuts dark, and then shit will happen.
So you're looking at more rebranding as opposed to extinction.
Yes.
Yeah. And in fact, I read an article pretty soon after the title was announced that, and I know it's random, it's very left field, but when they translated it into French in France, they were saying that the translation basically worked out to be that's exactly what it was. It's not so much the Last Jedi implying the end of the Jedi forever. It was more a rebirth of the Order.
I think they might go down the path of those Jedi Knight games, where the whole idea behind the Jedi powers is a lot more on that kind of grey side, where Kyle Katarn was a Jedi, but he could also use Force Lightning and Force Choke. But he used it in kind of like, I'm not going to use it on every other go.
Not an evil kind of way.
He'd use it if he absolutely needed to, but otherwise he would use positive Force ability if you called it that. And it harkens back to the whole Qui-Gon thing, and I think they'll want to harken back to they'll need to include the prequels somehow, and they haven't yet.
Yeah.
I think they'll really try, and Qui-Gon was very much like
the noble knight.
Well, he was the balance in the Force. He
Yeah.
was like, it's not so much good, it's not so much bad, it's just, you need to understand that they're talking about beings that aren't intrinsically one or the other, they develop. So,
yeah.
And then when you got JJ coming back for episode 9 as well, I think that'll really play into it as well. I think he'll want to do a story like that based off
something a little bit more complex and less black and white.
Yeah, like he definitely admitted that episode 7 was a rehash of episode 4.
I think that was intentional. I think it needed to get new audiences.
It really was to, for lack of a better word, trap the new audience into the magic that it is. And I was there on opening night. I was wearing robes and I had a lightsaber and I was literally jaw to the jaw, I'm sorry, if you haven't seen it yet, spoilers, I cried when Han Solo died, and I openly wept, but...
You haven't seen it yet, you shouldn't be listening to the fucking podcast, frankly.
They're called Bounty Hunter for a reason. We talk Star Wars.
We have a copyright infringing fucking logo on the shirt.
But it was one of those things, it was... But for them, it was that character dying. For them, it was a release from that character to go. And you see that Benicio del Toro's character is going to be the new kind of almost slimier Han Solo. It's going to be halfway between Jabba and Han. And I think it's exciting and it's cool, and I'm glad they're really doing it. But I understand the whole. They want to continue that traditional story arc, and Lucas talks about that all the time about how the prequels so much is foreshadowed of what happens in the original trilogy.
It was just too tightly tied. It was just too perfect.
Some shitty writing, too tightly tied, and But
What are your final thoughts?
Sorry, I went on a real
That's all good. That's what Banter's for.
It's all good. For me, yes, I sort of understand that it needed to mirror to a certain extent. It's Star Wars, so we always expect, small little rebel band of force going up against a big evil might against their giant new contraption. But I suppose, again, that's where for me Rogue One shone so brightly, was it shied away from that, and in a way that it blurred the lines between good and evil. You had the band of assassins and rogues that were out there. They were doing some pretty nasty stuff, assassinating people that you weren't quite sure if they were good or bad. And because of that,
they explored that.
They were doing that. They were doing that for good at the same time.
And that's what they said. They're guerrilla fighters. They're a rebel force.
And to me, it had that such a much more real. I guess it spoke to me personally more. Because you mirror that with, your World War II stories and stuff like that. And yet, for me, there was a clear crossover there. Whereas, the fact that we're beating to death this whole Skywalker franchise thing, and I understand, it's the main source, and always, I imagine there's going to be, one day or another, there will be 10, 11, 12, and it'll continue on because they're the main, the core of it. But I do hope we do see a lot more random, big war, wider theatre stuff, and it doesn't just always centre around
those few characters. Yeah.
I'll be super keen though if they finally do a Boba Fett origin story.
Here's an interesting one for you. Have you heard the theory that it was Boba Fett that went through and killed Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen as opposed to stormtroopers?
It would make sense because they were smoldering skeletons. You don't get that from an E11 blaster.
Exactly, and the fact that Darth Vader in Empire says no disintegrations. Stormtroopers have never done anything like that remotely to anybody that you've seen. Whereas it was sort of way too clear cut and way too specific to be randomly thrown out.
I think that's probably one of the things they probably would have explored in 1313 had they released it. I think it probably would have been one of the final levels where it's like. Kind of like that. I remember that it was the first level in Modern Warfare 2 for COD where you were the Russian terrorist killing people. And I think they would have probably tried to explore that, which would have been really amazing for a Star Wars game.
Very grey.
Very grey and very I don't feel entirely comfortable doing this. I want some blue milk. Why am I killing them?
That's the other thing I'm trying to sort of, disassociate my own. I saw Star Wars as a kid, as many of us did. Yeah. And since, growing up, I've sort of wanted to see more mature themes and that confusion between what is right, what is wrong, and that sort of line explored. Whereas as a kid, I wouldn't have appreciated it. Now, I think as a child, 12-year-old me going in and seeing Rogue One, I'd probably sit there going, no, this was terrible. I don't understand what's happening. I much prefer Episode 7, but I think as your audience changes, I like to think Star Wars is big enough now that you can explore both ends, and you shouldn't limit yourself down to one trend.
You can still sell Jar Jar Binks toys, but you can also have a storyline that's a little bit more complicated than the red lightsaber versus the blue lightsaber.
I think one of the modes in Battlefront 2 is clone troopers versus Gungans. For all the fans.
We'll all be enjoying that.
But that's one of the things as well. You really hope. I know that Disney, because of their own subscription service, just pulled the Marvel and Star Wars movies from Netflix. But you hope they go something down that with episodic stories into the future. Imagine like a Bounty Hunter cross Punisher series, not cross Punisher series, but in the theme that the Punisher series is going in, where you can go heaps dark because those dudes do some really epic shit that you can't do in the best M movie.
Or even take it to the other side, the Star Wars: The Old Republic, the Memorpiga that they released a few years back. The Imperial Agent in that, it was like a mixture of James Bond and Star Wars. I don't know if you guys ever played it, but that mix of having those adult sort of themes of espionage and sabotage, etc.
It was the Han Solo smuggler, but without the kind of cheesy on the surface only exploration of his title's smuggler. He never really does anything smugglery. It's not a vocation that you can get away with just being a good guy in.
Well, they only very loosely, talk about it in the actual films anywhere. It's even I get bored. It's that whole. I was thinking about it on the way home, the whole boarded sometimes line where it's you could really have got into that. Imagine that as an extended scene where it's he has troopers boarding his thing and he's just casually standing there like all Han Solo cocky and just like leans his elbow on a button that jettisons some cargo out the bottom of the Falcon. Like that would be like so cool.
Oh, well, maybe we'll see it in the Han Solo movie. Maybe we won't.
George, take note of what we just said.
I'm going to wrap there. Thanks very much, fellas. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you for having us back.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. So I am back with Dan at the end of the night to kind of wrap up the episode a little bit.
It was a successful Pumphouse World 8 Mario Kart tournament.
It was an awesome tournament.
We got about halfway through and Phil, the manager, he's like, we've got to do this every week. And I'm like, nah, my hair's going grey just trying to wrangle everybody to come and sit down and play.
Don't have the energy. But Chris loved standing up on the fucking chairs and tables and yelling at everyone.
Yeah.
He's in his element. So who ended up winning for the night?
The boys from Moondog.
Yeah, awesome. Big congratulations to those guys. I think I saw the last game from my seated position.
I could chime in for 1 sec and just say, make it weekly. Make it weekly, not fortnightly.
That was one of our listeners that's here with us tonight.
I don't think my wife would agree with me doing it weekly. It's a lot of editing. Never see me again. Yeah, so it was good in the end. We had a big turnout.
And there's a whole bunch of random people now sitting down playing Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, it's kind of at that time where it's time to start packing all this shit up before it goes walkabouts.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of wandered up for the night and seen us playing, so they're jumping on the stuff now. But all good. That's why we're here.
That's it. So if you're still with us, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully it's not too disjointed by the time I finished editing this thing with all the random interviews. And keep an eye on our social media. There's more beers coming very soon.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
How did you get Mega Man on the PlayStation?
Because I'm awesome.
It's just a little fucked. So I'm back with Dan. Say hello, Dan.
I have no idea. If you're trying to talk to me, I got no idea what you're saying.
So Dan's already started packing up and he doesn't have headphones. He can't hear me talking.
No, I gotta get headphones.
All right.